Welcome to Hill Country Network. My name's Chuck Garrett, and today my guest is Ms. Cathy Chism, who is a candidate for the Senate for the state of Mississippi. Welcome, Ms. Chism.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, Dr. Garrett.
Well, I really appreciate you coming. What we'll try to do today is I'm meeting with each of the four candidates in this area who are running for office, and this is kind of an introduction for them to the community. I know all of them are known fairly well around the community, but also there's a lot of things that I'm sure we'd like to know more about them and let them kind of get introduced to everybody. So that's kind of my goal going forward. And so, Ms. Chism, why don't we get right with it and just kind of, what party are you running in?
Republican.
Just curious, lifelong Republican, or how did you come to be a Republican, or anything you want to say about the Republican Party in general?
Well, of course, back in the 70s when I registered to vote, my family, my husband's family, you have to go register Democrat.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what I did, but I basically vote Republican now, and now you don't have to register Democrat or Republican, you just register to vote. And then when you go to the poll to vote, you either go to the Democrat table or the Republican table.
Okay.
So that's
I think your experience was there's been a lot of people who've had that experience. And
when you're as old as I am, yes.
Well, I appreciate you being here, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about, your family and growing up and some of this kind of thing?
Yes, I grew up in Myrtle. I went to school in Myrtle. I'm married to Bob Chism. We've been married for 46 years. I have one daughter. She is 33 years old, Joni McClarty. She's married to Jeremy McClarty. I have 4 grandchildren, and they go to Myrtle School.
All right, so a lot of people tell me being a grandparent is a lot of fun. I'm a grandparent, 1, 2, 3 times. And, some grandparents are really involved, others not as much. I'm probably not as involved as I ought to be. How do you approach being a grandmother?
I love being a grandmother. My grandchildren mean the world to me. They just take a place in your heart. Like, they say you don't know love until you have a child, and that is true. But then you don't know real love until you have a grandchild. Okay. They are absolutely wonderful. I probably don't spend as much time with them as I should. Of course, I'm busy with the election.
Yes, ma'am.
And as you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I have 3 businesses. We have, my husband and I have the pool store, Sunset Pool and Patio. We've been doing pools for 25 years now, and we just opened up a storefront last year. Then we have the auction company. I've been an auctioneer since 1990.
Really? 29
years. And then I sell real estate. I've been selling real estate for 11 years. So it takes up a lot of my time, although as my husband retired February the 28th, so he's going to spend more time with the pool store, which will free up some of my time. And once I'm through this election, then maybe we'll have a little bit more time to spend with the grandkids.
Now, when you say pool store, you talk about like swimming pools and stuff?
Yes, sir, swimming pool.
And what's y'all's niche there? What do y'all do?
Well, we sell any parts for pools. We sell chemicals. We install in-ground and above ground. We sell all of your toys for pools, floats, all of the accessories.
I've always worked for somebody, and I've always been in education, so I always got a check. And since I've retired, I've been looking at opportunities to try to start a business, and it's kind of scary. I mean, I've never really been in a position where I would try to invest in something, work it, grow it, and if it didn't make it or if it failed, all of a sudden I'm out a lot of money and all this kind of stuff.
True.
So I've gotten a whole new perspective on entrepreneurs and the kind of thing. So you guys having 3 businesses, that must be quite a challenge at times.
I like challenges. That's part of my life, challenges. And yes, it has been a challenge, but I pray about everything that I do, and God led me to open this pool store. Okay. If I can take a few extra minutes here.
Oh, sure. Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, I have friends that have tried to get me to open a pool store for years and I wouldn't do it. Last year I went to Corinth to meet the guy that brings the liners to me because I always worked out of my house on the liners, the pool store.
Yes, ma'am.
So I go to Corinth and I meet the guy and it's not my delivery man, it's a guy in management, and I'm like, boy, this is strange. Why is there a guy in management here? So when he gets out of his truck, he says, Miss Chism, do you have 10 minutes? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, do you know that you're selling more liners than most of our storefronts? I said, I did not know that. I know that God has been good to me. I did not know that. He said, have you ever considered opening a storefront? And I said, a few times, but I get cold feet and I don't. And I said, God just hasn't led me to do that yet. So we talked for 30 minutes. I left there and I started praying. I was coming down Highway 45, the 4-lane, and I started praying about it. And I said, Lord, if this is you talking to me, if I'm supposed to open up a pool store, show me a sign. I had not gone probably 5 minutes down the road, my phone rang, and it was a lady named Sandra from Tupelo. I had not talked to Sandra in 15 years, and she works in a pool store, or did, in Tupelo. She said, Cathy, did you know that I went out on my own? I said, well, Sandra, I heard that, but I did not know for sure. And when I got off the phone, it was like the Lord saying, there's your sign. You haven't talked to this lady in 15 years. And she called to tell you she went out on her own. So I'm like, Lord, I'm hard-headed. You're going to have to hit me harder than that. So I started praying again, and I said, Lord, I have a really big obstacle here in front of me. When I tell my husband that I'm wanting to open up a pool store, he's going to flip out because he's wanting to retire. And bear in mind, this was last year. So I called him, and it was small talk. Hey, how are you? How's your day going?
You got him ready for it.
I got him ready for it. I prepared him, and I said, I have an idea I need to run across with you. And he said, what's that? And it was like a very sarcastic voice, like, what's that? Because he knows I'm always coming up with something. I said, well, I'd like to open a pool store. And he sat there a minute, and there was silence, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble here. And then he says, I think that'd be a good idea. And I'm like, Lord, did you connect me with somebody other than my husband here? Have I called the wrong number? So I prayed about it, and I was like, there's not going to be a building anywhere in New Albany that I can afford in a good place, a good location. Being an entrepreneur, you can't start out at the top of the line. You've got to start somewhere you can afford. So the very next day, this building at 510 East Main Street just absolutely fell in my lap. And I was like, okay, Lord, this is you talking to me. This building is great. We're going to do this. And so I called back over to Huntsville, where I get my supplies from. And I said, okay, Clint, we're going to open up this storefront. He said, okay, Miss Cathy, maybe next spring. I said, oh no, we're opening in 3 weeks. He said, are you kidding me? I said, no, sir, I'm not kidding you at all. In 3 weeks, we were open. We missed the first month of the season, of the busy season, but even though we missed that first month, God bless the business. I mean, unreal, just unreal. I was totally taken out of here. And now I can look back over the past year, and I see what His plan was for me. It's hard to know what God's plan is for us, but if we listen, He'll show us. And I look back because my husband wasn't going to retire until this coming fall. But since we opened the pool store and it was doing really, really good, or is doing good, he was able to retire in February of this year.
Well,
so he's running the pool store pretty much, and I'm going to have time to campaign. And as I said, when I look back now, I see what God's plan was. And His plan, He knew that this opportunity was going to come open and that I needed to run for senator. I feel like this is where God has put me.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I have a question for you now. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner who's taken those chances, there's always a balance between how much to tax individuals and businesses versus the public need for roads and education and all that kind of stuff. How do you see that kind of balance in Mississippi? Do you think we're doing what we need to be doing for some of our public entities, or how do you look at that?
I feel like that businesses are overtaxed.
Okay.
Every time I turn around, there's more and more taxes.
Right.
And that's just my view on it. I feel like we are overtaxed.
Well, then again, I told you I was thinking about doing something like that myself, and you want to be able to make it, you want to survive, you want to thrive, but you also want to help with other kinds of things. But I just had to ask you that thing.
I do feel like we are overtaxed. If you decide to open up a business, pray about it. God will take you through it.
Thank you, ma'am. Your husband, very quickly, his background?
He went to school at East Union part of his years. He grew up over around Dumas. He drove a truck for 30 some odd years, making a really good living for myself and our daughter. He didn't have a lot of time at home, only the weekends, but we did very well. And then 3 years ago, he came off the road and he went into management, and he worked in management at Ashley over the drivers, the locals, and the shuttles, and he enjoyed that, although he was wanting to retire really bad. But he did enjoy it, and that's pretty much his background.
Well, I'm glad the retirement worked out for him, and you guys have done really well.
It did.
Clubs, organization, church membership, a little bit about that kind of background?
Yes, we are members of Beulah Baptist Church in Myrtle. That's where our children, our daughter and son-in-law and grandchildren go. That's how we ended up at Beulah Baptist. We went to New Hope for a long, long time. And organizations, I have not joined yet, but I plan to join Monday night.
Yes,
the Republican Women's Club in New Albany.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been going to it. I don't like to make hasty decisions, and I feel like that's a really good club. I've learned a lot there. It's interesting. I enjoy going to the meetings. Also went to the one in Pontotoc, and I enjoy it too. So I'll probably join them as an associate member in Pontotoc.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am. And you said you went to school in Myrtle. What was kind of your niche in the school? I mean, were you just studied hard, or you tried to do your best, or were you?
I always tried to
cheerleading and whatever.
I didn't do cheerleading.
What was kind of your thing?
I didn't do cheerleading, and I'm not an athletic person. I always tried to study hard. My dad always told me, you can do anything you want to do. You just got to have the willpower. You can do anything that anybody else can do. You just have to have the willpower. So he instilled that in me, and I guess that's why I become an entrepreneur, because I always felt like, well, if anybody else can open a business and run it, with God's help, I can too.
Okay. Recreational activities. I know you with 3 grandkids. I mean, they into soccer and some of that stuff, or kind of.
They're into soccer. They're into softball. They're into t-ball. I don't get to go to many of the practices or games, but I go to some of them. As far as myself, my husband and I ride motorcycles. I have my own. We usually take at least 1 week trip per year on motorcycles.
Really? I have to ask, Harleys or what?
Harleys,
okay.
Yes.
So you guys got the Harley thing going?
He has a road glide. I have a road glide, and I also have a wide glide. So I'm the spoiled one. I got 2 Harleys. He got 1.
I mean, I had motorcycles 30 years ago, and it wasn't anywhere near a Harley, and it wasn't new, but I kind of enjoyed it. It was fun.
It's fun. I mean, it takes your mind off of all of your problems when you get out there in the wind. It's very relaxing. Okay,
ma'am. Well, you mentioned your dad, and so I'll ask the question, and it may be redundant. Growing up, who were some people who had a very strong impact on you, and maybe how so?
My dad had a very strong impact on me. He was a very loving dad. He was, I don't even know how, maybe the way I should put it is, he died when I was 40 years old, and he never spanked me, not one time. And I'm not saying that's good or not good, but he was the type dad that he could talk to me. He didn't have to forcefully make me do anything, and I guess that had an impact on me.
Right.
He was a type dad that he could handle children or myself and teach me things without force, and I think that helped me a lot. It helped me to know how to deal with situations, It helped me to learn with being an entrepreneur how to deal with situations that I come across, because there's always stumbling blocks.
Right.
He just instilled a lot for me.
Sounded like he was gentle,
He was.
and you had a lot of respect for him.
Lots of respect for him, I did.
Sounds like you wanted to kind of live up to his.
I would like to fill his
who
shoes,
he
but it would
thought
be
you
hard to
could be.
do.
Yeah.
It would be hard to do.
Any life experiences that kind of shaped your values or kind of guided you as you became an adult and all this kind of thing?
Well, there's always stumbling blocks. There's always life experiences, little things that happen. Nothing major, but just everyday stumbling blocks that shape you and mold you and make you what you are.
Okay. If elected, what type leader would you be?
I would like to be a leader with honesty, integrity, open-minded, one who is, I'd like to be a good listener.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think that if you listen well, you learn a lot, and by learning, I would be able to help the people in District 3.
I ask you kind of a touchy question. You see how you feel about this one. A lot of times people get elected, and then they go to Jackson, and there's a lot of peer pressure. Hey, the Republican Party puts pressure on its members to go in certain directions and vote together and all this kind of thing. I know some people step outside that, and I know it's really hard to step outside. How do you feel prepared to deal with how you would go with that?
I guess I'm a hard-headed person. My husband tells me I am. I would like to listen to what they have to say. I would like to listen to what people of the District 3 have to say, and I would like to pray about whatever problem we're working with, whatever, I don't want to be a pushover, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'd like to make up my own mind, but I would like to do it open-mindedly. So I don't want to go down there and per se, okay, I'm going to go down there and just let them tell me what to do. I'm not that type person.
It sounds like you would have the type integrity that would make it very difficult for you to vote in a way you thought was wrong.
If it's wrong, I can't vote for it. I had been asked to run the Democrat Party, but I couldn't. I have more of the Republican morals and standards, so I just couldn't run Democrat. And I had been asked by several people, if you would run Democrat, you wouldn't have any problems winning this race in the primary, but I couldn't, even if the door was completely open. So I'm not the type person that I'm going to do what somebody else wants me to do. I'm going to do what I feel like is right morally and with Christianity.
And you said earlier that we talked about it, you were talking about being pro-life, pro-gun.
Yes.
And some of those kinds of things that kind of lead you in that direction as well.
Yes, sir. I believe at the moment of conception there is life. And I think that if there's an abortion, it's murder. You're taking God's child.
Okay. What would be your areas of greatest interest as a legislator? When you go there, are you going there with kind of a few things you'd like to be involved in, or?
I'm new at this, so I've got to go there and see, what all's happening. I know I do have interest in the roads and the bridges, and I do have interest in the legislative session, in general. The legislature services, it's one of democracy's worthiest pursuits, and I think it deserves a lot of attention. I think it deserves a lot of time and dedication.
Yes, ma'am. I know as a past superintendent, sometimes we closed schools because there were 2 or 3 roads or bridges that just weren't passable for buses. Mm-hmm. Now, the people who lived in town could not know that.
Right.
But when you would get out there and drive it, there would be bridges underwater, or there would be places where it just wasn't safe. So when they talk about the 100 and some odd bridges in Mississippi, the whole problem is, how do you get to that, or how do you get at that? And Do you have any ideas about that going in, or living in Myrtle? I would think that would be rural enough that you bumped into some of that.
Yes, we have that problem in Myrtle. You have it all over North Mississippi. And I think those problems need to be addressed. And I know they say, well, where's the money going to come from? Probably, my thoughts would be, you know, the Mississippi has a lottery now. There's money coming from the lottery,
Yes,
or
ma'am.
going to. I'm not the one that voted that in, but it's there and the money's coming in. I think it needs to be put to good use. Maybe some of it could be put to the bridges and things like that. They also have passed the new law that sales tax will be charged on internet sales. So that's more revenue coming in that I think could be used to maintain the bridges, to repair roads.
Okay, well, thank you for that. If elected, how would you communicate with your constituents? I mean, you're here, you're running. If you got elected, now how do you keep them apprised and stay in touch with them?
On open door policy to begin with, I would like my phone to be publicized, my phone number, and internet. Of course, there's a lot of people that know me, and most of them know where I live and how to get in touch with me. My doors are open at my house anytime. I definitely don't want a barrier between me and any of the people.
Right.
I definitely want to stay in contact, and like I said, publicize my phone number. My door at my house is open anytime.
Okay. Very quickly, because we're just about running out of time, educational type topics. You know, the teachers just got a $1,500 pay raise. Teacher assistants got a $1,500 pay raise. Was that enough? Was it too much? Was it warranted? How do you view
I think
that?
Teachers deserve more money. That's one of the problems we have in Mississippi. You know, our education is not as up to standards as it should be. I think that the teachers deserve more money. It's hard work. I don't think they're recognized as the professionals that they are. We have teachers that have degrees that they should be recognized. And I think that's the reason that they're leaving. You know, we've lost a lot of teachers, and I think they're going to other areas for better pay and recognition. And
with that, my daughter and her husband, both teachers, moved to Houston, Texas, and got a $16,000 raise each.
That's what I'm saying, and it should happen right here. We have a lot of good kids that are growing up. We have a lot of smart kids.
Right.
They just, and when I say smart, they don't know everything, but for their age and their time, they are smart. They just need the teachers to teach. You know, teachers are focused on the state test. As you know, there's 4 that they have to pass to graduate. I think that the teachers are having to focus on these tests so much that they can't teach everything they need to in the classrooms that they want to teach. I think that the test maybe should be diminished somewhat, and the teachers should be allowed to teach, and I think they should have pay raises.
Well, and there's been a movement to say, instead of taking state tests, take the ACT and create cut scores that would be reflective of, say, what the state test is. And now they're already requiring that of all juniors take the state test already. I think that would really, I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but it's an idea that is worth looking at.
I think it's a good idea. I really do think it's a good idea because, like I said, the teachers are having to focus on all of these tests to be taken to graduate, and they're not being able to spend enough time. If they were doing just the ACT test, that's going to let you know where the kids are, and that's going to let you know if the teachers are doing their job.
Okay.
So
I appreciate it. We are out of time. Is there anything you would like to say as we get ready to close today?
I would like to say that I feel like I have good work ethics. I have good Christian morals, and if the people in District 3 could come out and vote for me, I would really appreciate it. I'll go down there, I'll work hard, I'll do my best.
Well, Ms. Chism, we really appreciate you being here, and I thank you for that. And for Hill Country Network, this is Chuck Garrett saying we'll see you next time. Thank you.